What's up, Mr. Fellas, man?
Hey, man. Look like I caught you at a pretty good time here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, got my stepson back here, man, working out, man. And I see you got let's see what you got right here. You got a bag right there. Yeah, right there. Man, motorcycles going down the street.
Yeah,
So what are you doing with your free time, man, now that you've been out? And you getting a taste of this freedom, you was chasing freedom now it look like you just having freedom now.
Yeah, this is my backyard workout right here.
This backyard workout?
Yeah, at Mom's house.
Uh-huh.
You don't need no weights and no gym. You pretty much use your body weight.
Oh, man, look like you're doing a great job, though, man. You look like you're pretty fit, man. So what are some of the other things that you do while you out working out, man?
Pretty much just body weight, push-ups, pull-ups, run, shadow box, stuff like that.
So I'm glad you mentioned running. So when you out running, what comes to mind when you run? Because we're in a time where we see black men running, and then we get these Karens and Beckys, and we get even local police departments where they approach black men and they ask them some strange questions, like, for instance, like, say for instance, you in a certain predominant area that's probably has a white community overall, and they see a black man running that community. What are your thoughts behind that? Have you had any encounters? Let me ask you that first.
Fortunately, no. I haven't had any encounters, but I definitely understand what you're saying. So we can go back to Ahmaud Arbery.
Okay.
Who was running through a white neighborhood, ended up being killed. So, I mean, me personally, people have brought that up to me because, like you said, I like to run. And I run through anybody's neighborhood. And this is a time where you don't see too many black men doing that. And because of situations like that. Another situation that contributes to that too is the gang violence. A lot of us don't like to go through other people's neighborhoods. But to me, that right there, for me to be scared to run through an all-white neighborhood or even somebody else's neighborhood would make me a victim. Because the whole purpose of it is modern lynching. And the whole purpose of a lynching is psychological. It's not to cause harm to the actual person who's being lynched. The purpose of a psychological lynching is to damage the minds of those who live after that lynching. So it's all about instilling fear into us as black men. So for me to not run because Ahmaud Arbery was killed running through a white neighborhood, that would mean that I too have been psychologically lynched. And so the way you combat is by saying, fuck them. Run through their neighborhood. Run through anybody's neighborhood. It's all a free world. But we can't live with that fear, because if we live with fear, we've pretty much been psychologically lynched. The lynching has worked once we allow that fear to consume our hearts. So to me, I don't pay it no mind. I'm going to have courage and do it anyway.
So when the psychological lynching, as you mentioned, is that a new word you coined right there, psychological?
I mean, you probably can say that, but that's the whole purpose of the lynching. The lynching was designed to instill fear in black men.
So
it was designed to instill fear in the black men who lived after the lynching, so that they wouldn't do the things that the person who was lynched was accused of doing.
So we can look at this, so to speak, as a righteous indignation, so to speak?
Yeah, of course. Indignation, all indignation is righteous. That's pretty much what we got going now. What you see in the streets with all the protesting and all that energy is because of indignation. People are righteously fed up with the way that black men have been treated by the system. It seems that we don't get any justice. And it's all because of fear, and it's all because of that psychological lynching, even with what happened with what's the brother name?
George Floyd or Jacob Blake?
Not George Floyd, but look, but since you bring up George Floyd, let's go there. George Floyd.
Uh-huh.
That right there was another psychological lynching. It was designed to contribute to install fear into black men. So it's designed for us to obey everything law enforcement want us to obey. So when they give us an order, they instill that fear. They try to instill that fear so that we can follow all of their orders, even if those orders are wrong, even if you've never done nothing wrong. And so you hear it a lot, and it may be unwise for me to say this, but you hear black parents telling their kids, do whatever law enforcement say so that you can come home. And that is the whole purpose there. It is called psychological lynching. That is the way to train black people to be obedient. And when you're not following those rules, they kill you. So the thing is, let them kill all of us. And then it's going to show who the real evil person is. If we ain't doing nothing wrong, then we shouldn't have to be following their orders. We should be able to be who we are.
I agree with you totally. I just think that, a lot of times people, when they get into the physicality of it, of what you're saying, that a lot of people, they really don't understand it. But here's the thing. I think all these law enforcement type people, they really just don't know how to approach black people.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And because a lot of them don't understand our culture. And a lot of them, most of them, not all of them, because a lot of them are good. You've got a lot of good ones. But most of them have never interacted with black people from our culture, from the environments that we live in, and environments that we grow up in. So the only contact and knowledge that they got of black people is what they see on TV. And that's why another thing. That's why, me personally, I think we as black people should set different examples. Because some of them, they judge us based off what they see on TV. So if they see us on TV acting like fools, that instills fear in them. And so now when they approach us, that fear consumes them. And so now any little slight move, and that fear causes them to react.
They become reactionary.
Exactly. They become reactionaries because they don't really know us. They know us by a rap video. You know what I'm saying? Or what? Jigaboo.
But would it be fair to say that everything we know, we learn from them? So we only doing what they do, right?
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, you got to look at, we lost our identity when we came to this country.
Yeah. They in theft of our language, our culture, our identity.
Well, I mean, all that there is, that can go to another level there too. But I think the thing of it is that slavery has warped the mind of a lot of black people, and a lot of white people don't understand the scars and the effects that slavery still have on us today. Because you're talking about a group of people who were brought here and stripped of their identity and culture. And so now the only identity and culture that we have is things that we had to find on our own. And a lot of us, we didn't have nowhere to turn to find that culture. So that's where games come into play. That's where Superfly and all the movies from the 70s and 60s came into play.
Blaxploitation.
Blaxploitation, exactly. Because a lot of blacks didn't have an identity. And so when they seen it on the big screen, when they seen it on TV,
that's who they thought they were.
Exactly. That's who we started to believe the epitome of being a real black man. We started trying to be like Superfly, right?
Right.
And so then when we look in our environments, in our communities, and we see drug dealers, those who are glamorized, we try to live up to be like them because that's the only identity that we know. So that's why it's upon us to correct that and give the younger guys a different identity on what it means to be a black man. And so that's why I run through any neighborhood because black man should have no fear about running through no white neighborhood, no blood neighborhood, no Crip
especially
neighborhood.
running away. All I see is you with shorts and tennis shoes. So there's obviously you not hiding any contraband or anything that was going to bring harm to anybody. So maybe they just, you know what I mean, because the black people have more muscle mass, we're more toned, we're more physically fit, we athletic, we have a lot of things going for us that necessarily maybe it just could just be a jealousy.
I mean, I don't even know if that's the case, because we can't really say what's going on through the minds of other people, right? But one thing that I do know is the case is that a lot of us are taught and trained to act a certain way.
True.
And when it comes to law enforcement and those who've never interacted with us as a black people.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. Does that start in the education? And going on from education, well, education is an introduction to that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
in the school system, what I'm saying.
In education, of course, but some things we're not going to be able to change. I mean, you and we're not going to be able to change that. Those things can be brought up and discussed, but those things are really out of our realm right now. What's in our realm is the things that we're able to control and change.
Yeah, because we're in complete control of our own mind, our own faculties.
And the only thing that we right now have control over is the way that we're going to conduct ourselves. And one of them things that I'm never going to do is I'm not going to conduct myself with fear.
Right.
And then I'm going to try to portray and exhibit the true definition of being a strong
I'm
black
a firm
man.
believer what the mind conceive and believe it can achieve. And the only limitations anyone ever have is the ones they place on themselves or allow others to place on them.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. And so it comes back to what we're going to do.
Right.
Sure, law enforcement is going to do what they're going to do. And the reason people are protesting now is because we want them to understand who we are.
Right.
We want them to change their way of training, change their way of interacting with us. And that's something that can and should be done. But the things that I can control is not having any fear on how they perceive me. Fuck how they perceive me. I am who I am. And at the end of the day, what's going to determine and judge who I am is me and the things that I do. So if they lynch me for running through their neighborhood, that says more about them than it does about me. And so I'm not fearful of that, you know.
Right.
So, but at the bottom line is, I'm gonna do my best to exhibit good qualities to show what a man is supposed to be. And
Gotcha.
I'm not going to be.
And could you give us that term again? What was it? Physical?
Psychological lynching.
Psychological lynching.
Psychological lynching. That means to be scarred from the violence perpetrated against us as black men, whether it's perpetrated by the police or lynching us modernly, or whether it's perpetrated by ourselves who are lynching us modernly.
Would you agree that history is medicine for a sick mind? Because within history, it has a variety of human experiences which we can learn and teach from?
Yeah, you want to know history, but at the same time, you want to take it, you don't want to ingest it too much, because a lot of it isn't true. And a lot of it was
especially coming from a United States perspective.
Well, United States, whatever. I mean, the whole thing about it is different people have their way of spinning and twisting things.
True.
So the bottom line is everybody just got to have an open mind and an open heart and understand that we all equal and that ain't nobody better than the other.
So would it be fair to say black, white, red, yellow, there's no such thing as far as race. There's only one race, and that is the human race. Well, man, everything else is just a construct.
But, you know, it all comes down to capitalism. You know, it wasn't no such thing as racism until slavery. Racism came about as a way to brainwash everybody, including white people, to make them think that black people was inferior.
Right.
That way they can continue to keep us enslaved.
So that's social conditioning.
Exactly. And so and it was all designed for the man.
And the manifestation, and we know the manifestation of social conditioning is the underestimate, undermine, undervalue, and marginalize people of color, especially black people.
And what was the reason for it? To keep us in slavery.
To keep us in slavery.
Get rich.
So they continue to get. So they like the position they're in.
It's all about staying in a position of power and a position of wealth.
Right.
And that's where racism began. In order for the slave owners and their families to stay in a position of power and a position of wealth, they had to brainwash not only the black people, but also the white people into believing that black people were inferior, so that they can justify why we should stay in slavery, why we should stay at the bottom line.
I even look at race as a competition. And the reason why I look at it as a competition because they treat it like one. With all the things that they use to keep us back, you know what I mean? Because they're winning, but they cheat. They cheat a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to look at, when you say that, you got to look at who exactly it is. Because you got to look at it, it's not a black and white thing. It's not, because whites are much as the victim as blacks are sometimes.
They are.
Because
I agree.
It's all about being brainwashed.
Right.
A lot of them have been brainwashed too.
Once again, we have social conditioning.
Exactly. So it's not so much about they or we, it's so much about those who want to keep the system the way that it is. Them are the people who are contributing and who are pretty much brainwashing through media and everything else to keep things the way that they are so that they can keep winning.
Well, I'm glad we had a chance to have this talk, and while I caught you working out, I think that was the best time to catch you, man, because you was demonstrating, you know, your physicality and everything, and back here and working out, and then you also was able to give us that powerful message, and then actually give us a definition to what you were saying. So it's very credible. I think everything you said was real credible. I look forward to having more discussions with you.
And next time, just give me a notice and we'll sit down and have us a real
man. We're looking forward to it,
interview.
man. Actually, I'm talking to Kev Mac, and we're gonna come around and we're gonna sit down and just go real deep, man. But y'all know what it is, man.
Yeah.
Professor Melly Mail, the Dahoodpostman. I'm back here with Bosco, man. Y'all see him, man. And he's coming, man. We coming to the movies. We coming to the silver screen. We coming to documentaries. We're gonna do everything, man. We're gonna cover everything. So, man, y'all look forward to seeing us. And what can I say, man? We out. You got anything to add?
No, I see you at the real interview, Melly.
Okay.